حاضر
اي
حفان محاوي يا ابوي
كبير باي يقول عيني وين
قلب وناكسه
قلب وناكسه
Where's it going?
Now, me and you meet him under the tree.
Okay. Okay. You know those outer-body experiences where you look around and say, this shit isn't happening to me? My only one I could compare it to is when I got pulled over for speeding in Kitchener. Cop asked me to step out of the car because I had a blunt in the ashtray.
What is a blunt?
You know, grass, marijuana.
That isn't tolerated in America?
I'm Canadian.
Sorry, brother. I forget.
Well, please don't forget when I get shot here. I want my body sent to the right country.
No one will shoot you.
Maimed, whatever.
Give it up one more time for these guys. Let's hear it. Jay, I want to start with you. This is based on your book and your experiences in 2008. How close does it mirror your exact experiences? Does it feel like what you went through?
I think the spirit of what I went through is dead on, and I think somewhat to my embarrassment, Evan portrays me amazingly well as a bumbling and know-nothing wannabe journalist who blunders into Somalia. And
were you that much of a stoner?
I think my friend definitely was the friend who portrayed. But I was a bit of a stoner myself.
Evan, how much did you get to know Jay before you started portraying him on screen?
Not as much as I'd like to. We did Skype a little bit and talked a little bit about him coming over to Somalia, and I got to think about his accent a little bit more. She's very
Canadian
strange.
accent?
Yeah, boot. But yeah, we did meet. We met on set towards the end, actually, of shooting. We kind of wanted to separate that a little bit. I felt it was, and Bryan felt it was a little difficult trying to be Jay. He's very tall and very particular. So we kind of abandoned that idea.
Now, Bryan, you made a short doc or a short film in about Somalia before you went on to making this. You told me that you bought the rights to this essentially while you were working on that film. You do an incredible job of doing something about the Somali pirates that no one else has ever done. Usually they're portrayed as villainous thieves, pirates, quote unquote, and you do something much different here. Talk about that sort of initiative and that goal that was behind this film.
Well, I mean, I think Jay's book, spoke to that. There's a range of pirates, they're the original sort of core pirate that was a fisherman, that ended up having their waters fished out and by foreign trawlers and different nations came in there because there was no way to protect their waters. The country was basically in anarchy. And those fishermen were just trying to protect their waters. So we wanted to portray, Boya, who's a real fisherman who came from that background, was one side of it. As the sort of hijacking increased and money was being made, in came another element, more the mobster type, their roots were not the same. They didn't come from the same place, and we wanted to portray that too. Gerard, who would go on to take in Captain Phillips, the ship, the Alabama, that was from Captain Phillips. So this it evolved over time, and Jay's book really laid that out for you, and you needed to see there's different, layers of this and why this came into being. I mean, even a few weeks ago, there were more piracies is once again happening. And maybe part of that is the desperation of the situation over there right now.
How difficult was it for you to sort of condense all of the history that can go into Jay's book into the sort of single story of Jay's trip over there?
Well, it's always difficult. So you take that book. I mean, he made it easy. I've never done an adaptation of a screenplay before, so or a book, I should say, and so it was like, thank God, there's a beginning, middle, end. I mean, and that I saw that. So then you just sort of had to break down what are the pieces of information that we need to convey, in terms of story. And then the second part was, what is Jay's sort of growth during this period, and as he sort of goes into this culture. Those are things that both Jay had pulled out of, had in his book, and also personally from personal experience, spending time with a lot of refugees and camps and what have you, trying to understand the Somali culture and bringing that out. Humor being, a big element of their culture, because that's how they survive. You go through hell, you got to find a way to laugh your way through it, and that's one part of it that really wasn't being portrayed at all. Obviously Captain Phillips, one of the great comedies of all time. So what are you going to do? So you have to show that other side.
AFI's Top 100 Comedies, Captain Phillips. Barkhad Abdi, thanks so much for being here. We got Barkhad Abdi, guys. Oscar-nominated Barkhad Abdi. You're amazing in Captain Phillips. You have a line in Captain Phillips that I still quote to this day and manipulate in funny ways, and it's become, I think, one of the few catchphrases movies have actually really given us in the last 10 years. We used to get them all the time. And in this, you're a completely different character. You're much more jovial. You're having a good time. What was it like for you to sort of go back to playing a Somali pirate, but portray a different version of a Somali pirate?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And I did not want to make another pirate movie, but, the story was really different. I fell in love with the script, and we had a lot of fun shooting this film with Evan and the whole crew and the cast. It was just such a great time, and I think this is really a vital story for people to understand the Somali culture and the whole pirate situation on a different light. So just to wind, like where people see it from, So it was always from a small angle, and you cannot judge aspect from one side. So with this movie, we have a variety of angles that we can judge and come to a conclusion.
Bryan, did your film feel at all like a response to, as great as Captain Phillips is, did it feel like you were making a bit of a response to it in the sense that you were injecting a certain amount of humanity to the other side of that conversation?
Well, I mean, Assad was done before there was Captain Phillips, and I was already in that sort of battle mode that we need to tell another side of the story, and then the answer is yes. I felt like we need films, Hollywood needs to create films that show the spectrum, because what happens is, you're looking at the situation in this country right now, it's a lot of fear, and fear because there's lack of knowledge. And one of the big ways in which people get their information are films, still. Entertainment, the news does a certain amount of it, but we are responsible as storytellers to tell the other side of the story so that people begin to understand. If they can understand, grow a little bit, then it gets a hell of a lot harder to start talking about banning, an entire country from coming into to your country. The country that was built on the idea that we're supposed to be accepting, and suddenly we're not. We're
built off of immigrants and refugees, essentially.
Yeah.
Jay, talk a little bit about your time there and writing the book. How long were you there?
So I was in Somalia total for about 3 months in 2 different trips, and that in the movie is sort of condensed into one. But it was right around, I got back for the first time right around when the Captain Phillips story happened, as is depicted in the movie, when piracy just absolutely exploded in sort of international news, and that was became the real hook for what eventually became a book. But when I first went there, I literally didn't have my name in print. I hadn't written a news article. I went over there with a book idea, and it was I guess an idea crazy enough to work, and I think that really comes through in the movie. And what I also really like about the movie is that it did cast Somali refugees, or a large number of Somali refugees, in acting roles, and they do an amazing job. Some of my favorite scenes in the movie involve actors who had never acted before, and it just absolutely nailed the feel and the sense of being in Somalia, because they are Somalis who naturally are interacting with each other, and that's something I really, really loved about the movie, and it's something unique. I haven't seen Somalia portrayed in a movie that way before.
Evan, I feel like your career thus far has been sort of dominated by working with legendary actors of television and movies. What was it like working with these Somali refugees who'd never acted before?
I learned just as much from them as I did working with some of the veterans that I've worked with. They were incredibly natural and incredibly truthful, and grounded the whole thing in reality. And I loved it. You know, they were constantly speaking in Somali, and I had no idea.
Did you learn any Somali?
A little bit. I learned a song. Anyway, yeah, Barkhad was incredibly instrumental in helping me to understand what they were saying around me. But yeah, that was one of the selling points that Bryan gave me, is that there were going to be Somali refugees playing a lot of the roles. So there was an element of truth and reality in it that we couldn't have gotten if we just had actors playing those roles.
What drew you to this part, Evan?
That was a huge draw, and it was a chance to learn about a culture that I didn't know anything about, other than Captain Phillips and Barkhad and Black Hawk Down, but
not the nicest depiction.
Not the nicest depiction, no, not at all. And I was anxious to learn more about their culture. And Bryan had told me that they laugh a lot and they have a great sense of humor, and I was anxious to be a part of that. And it was an opportunity to go to South Africa and Cape Town and go to the motherland and explore that and go on an adventure for myself and sort of step out of my own box. So it wasn't quite going to Somalia like Jay did, but it was definitely a big step for me. So that's what drew it to.
It's a tough performance, and you do an incredible job walking this line of someone who is driven to travel the world and write a book, but at the same time like a bumbling stoner who's kind of falling into it at the same time. I mean, you do have to play both those roles, as someone who's going to be funny as a stoner, but then also we're going to believe that he's actually really ambitious. He's going to do that.
Well, Jay's a very smart guy, as you can hear him say, and if you read his book, you'll know, and what he does now is very smart and noble and admirable. And
I'm not calling you a bumbling stoner.
Well, I was just, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. We all grow up. We all learn. So anyway.
But was that tough as an actor to sort of make sure that you had that comic line as well as something that drew the audience in, to make sure that we understood he was ambitious?
Absolutely. Bryan worked very hard on fine-tuning that, with the Somali refugees and myself and everybody involved in the film. We were constantly walking this thin line of trying to figure that out. But it was in the script, it was written that way, and we did it justice. The script. I mean, it starts in Toronto, obviously, and he's very naive and young and doesn't know much, and sort of walks blindly into this incredibly dangerous situation potentially, and comes out learning so much about the culture and about himself and finding strength and confidence, which is a great story.
And Bryan, I think you have to walk a line too, which is that you have to present a sense of danger and sort of mystery for the audience, so they're sort of compelled and thrilled to continue watching. But at the same time, you don't want that sense of danger to be like exotic, and this idea that it's only dangerous because he's going to an exotic land. So often you have to kind of make sure the danger is coming from his perception rather than what's actually happening.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think we all carry into that movie a preconceived notion because we've been handed the media reports and we've seen all the stuff. So I kind of knew everyone's already on edge walking into the theater, right? We've all been told this stuff's going to happen here. So, or at least the perception of that. So I didn't want to do anything that wasn't accurate to Jay's story, or I would be doing a disservice to his journey, in terms of whatever bad things, whatever happened, getting on ships, etc. That was really, really important to me. There's a crazy dream sequence. Jay actually had that crazy dream sequence, and that to me, okay, that's accurate. That this is accurate. Everything had to be that. Otherwise, I'd look back on this film going, we just fed the fire for another movie that sort of is selling something that didn't really happen. And and being dedicated to that, you can still create tension, but the tension is because we've created that tension via the movies we're making, and that's the way. It's unfortunate, but.
Jay, you originally go there not to cover pirates or piracy at all, but to sort of cover a budding democracy and what that means in relationship to sort of geopolitics around the world. By the end of the film, without giving anything away, there's an incredible statement that is given about Somalia and about a people who want to be recognized for their culture and the work that they've done in their traditions and how they're growing. And that could be applicable to many cultures around the country right now, and how we in the U.S. or how the West perceives them. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I think Somalis are incredibly proud people, are proud of their history and their culture, and the country's now been in civil war for 25 years, and that perception that they feel they're portrayed negatively on the world stage, that all you hear about is pirates and terrorism, is something that really is sort of a chip on their shoulder. And now, without getting too much into politics, obviously,
it's okay.
the latest developments, where Somalia is one of a number of countries that's been demonized as basically seen as so dangerous that even the people coming out of it.
The travel ban.
Yes, the travel ban. If you yes, let's stop politics.
Very nice by calling it a travel ban.
And I think what I hope it's a very difficult line to walk in that as a journalist or as an entertainer or as a movie maker. You have to provide a subject that will sell, that people will want to watch. And in the book and in the movie, what I think that selling point is the piracy. And what we try to do is go beyond that, or what Bryan tries to do as well in the movie is go beyond that and see the people, see everyday life, try to make it so these aren't people to be afraid of. And I hope that this movie will sort of be an alternative to some of the other films that have portrayed Somalia, in exclusively a negative light, and will perhaps change perceptions of the Somali people.
Barkhad, you grew up. How has the travel ban affected you at this point? I mean, you grew up in Minnesota, right? Where is it Minnesota? Yeah. Minnesota, and essentially a Somali community. That story was told how you auditioned for Captain Phillips kind of randomly at that time while you were living there. Right. But how has this ban affected you, just emotionally?
Well, the ban affected a lot of people. But for me, it's just sad to see that, and I think the American people understand the reality, and they will overcome this, and it's just a stepping stone for people to really understand why is this happening and why these people being targeted. So, for everything, there's a beginning and there's an end. So, this is the beginning of something now. We'll see how it ends.
It's a fairly optimistic way to look at it. I appreciate that. That was great. Kiana, can you talk about your part in the film, your role?
I play Evan's high school ex-girlfriend, who's kind of small part, but sort of does drive him a little bit to go to Somalia and impress her. So I'm in a lot of flashback sequences and photos, and kind of just always kind of lingering there in the back of his mind. So.
And there's someone in the film that we have yet to talk about. I mean, is it a surprise that he appears in the film, right? I mean, we can talk about it, right?
Who's that?
Pacino?
Bahadur.
Al Pacino's in the
Al
movie.
Pacino.
And he's unbelievable. He as soon as he shows up, he does Al Pacino things, and you're like, oh, I love this guy.
It's you got to have a movie with Al Pacino. I mean,
you get Al Pacino on set. Do you direct Al Pacino, or do you tell him where to sit and give him a line? And he just goes, "Here we go."
Oh wow! No, he came in. I mean, Al's Al, but it's interesting. He's a force. I mean, to say the least. He's a force.
Devin, I just remember one time we did a take, and afterwards Bryan goes, "Oh, that was nice. Okay, let's that was nice." And Al goes, "Well, that's a little better than nice."
Nice. He goes, "Nice. That's what I can swear.
Swear.
Okay, yeah. That's where we fucking came here. Nice. All right, yeah.
Let's do another one.
I did a nice take. Thank Brian. Nice take.
He always
And that was
wanted one more too.
Yeah, no, and that was the thing. Like so like Al, preparation. You start. You're talking to him. You have meetings with him, and then the next thing you know, he's getting into. You start getting his character, his wardrobe. He does research, comes back. His character. Then he ends up coming in to do this role, and he was. It was just amazing that he was just so so we do a take and I inevitably learned that if you said we're gonna move on, I go, I think we got it. He'd go, one more, just one more. And then there'd be like, oh, there's a 6th gear or a turbocharger under the dashboard that Al pushes. And all of a sudden, it's like, where did that come from? Like another level of his performance. Like he sort of sat and got into something. And the other thing is that he would be so aware of blocking, so aware, so that we'd go through a shot like that long walking shot, and he goes in, he goes, I'm going to step over here and do this. And he's like, why? And you go, oh, I see what you're thinking. And like he helps you become a much better director, in terms of like he's
such a veteran, such a pro, yeah.
Thinking things through from a character standpoint and very aware of his performances. And then, when we screened the movie for him, like, because I remember he said, like, take 6 of this, take 3 of this, and take 4 after we finished shooting. So I'm like, oh my God, we're screening the movie for him a couple months ago, and he's like, is he gonna remember his take 6? We usually take 5, actually. Is he gonna notice that? Buckley. No, he didn't do that. But anyway, it's really interesting. And that's why you look at, and I use these guys here too, because I believe that we have the most talented group here ever. That it's so much fun when we're with people who care so much about what they do. It's just, it's the best. It's just amazing.
Can you imagine saying no to Al Pacino when he asks for an extra take? Like the kind of person who'd be like, sorry, Al Pacino, I'm not going to do what you're asking for.
Yeah, we're pretty good. Okay, why don't you go to craft services? Hey guys, let's move on. And
my ego's bigger than yours, Al Pacino.
No, it's never going to happen. You're like, okay, all right, let's do another one.
Let's get some questions from the audience here. Who's got it right here?
Yep. Hey, great to see you all. Congrats on the movie. It looks really awesome. Can't wait to see it. As an upcoming filmmaker myself, I love seeing other films that do adaptations because I'm very curious about how to approach that. And what I really wanted to know from all of you was, what was the personal challenge you faced on set and how did you go towards overcoming it, whether it be physically or morally, concerning the movie?
Just say the language barrier and we'll move on. No.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely was a challenge. Yeah. But I like that. That was good because that helped the character.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. Like you look at in prayer, for instance. Yeah. So we had to deal. Be true to the faith. Muslim faith. There was prayer happening throughout the day. Everything shuts down. That's it. And you'd lose actors for a little while. You go like, where do they go? And they go, oh, they're in prayer. Okay. So you have to build your schedule and your whole world around that and respect prayer. In fact, there's a sequence in the film that there's prayer going on, and we were supposed to have a everyone praying, and they're like, you can't shoot us praying. We're not going to allow that to happen. We don't care. It's even if you roll the cameras at the right time, we don't want it on film, and you have to respect that. And that's that's what I love. I loved about the process is that you get it's cultural obstacles that your perception is, hey, we're filmmakers. Go in. We're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. You're gonna stand over there. And that's not what you're walking into in this situation. And I love that.
They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't give a shit that you're making a movie.
They don't care.
Which is awesome. It's great.
It's so awesome.
Humbling, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a lead like, hey, look, I can't make it next week. I got to work. He's like, don't you understand? You're gonna be like,
I remember the guy who played Colonel Omar. He shaved his widow's peak because he was tired of having it in the middle of shooting. He had a full-on widow's peak, and he was like, we were like, why did you shave it? And he's like, it needed to go. like, oh my God! So they had to glue on a widow's peak for the rest of the shoot.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
Next question.
Hey guys, I just want to say, Evan, I love all your movies that you're in. I can feel every character that you play. My question was, for upcoming actors and actresses, like, what is your advice for them?
My go-to is always go to acting classes or workshops and work with a coach and just continue to work on your craft and build that up, because that's the foundation of everything. And just don't stop doing that. Don't stop learning and keep doing that.
It's also the muscle, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
not working in a movie or a TV show and you're not taking classes, you're not exercising the muscle.
Totally, yeah. Read books, go to classes, all of it. It all works great. See plays, see movies, see bad movies, see good movies, see everything.
Do you find that bad movies and bad performances help you sometimes more
Absolutely,
than good
yeah.
movies and good
It all
performances?
helps. You're constantly learning and taking notes and building it up in your brain about what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. This guy.
Hey guys, I'm looking forward to seeing this film. I was just wondering, what do you hope audiences will take away from watching the movie?
I think the biggest, and I look at this group right here, and I say, if you can take away, in this man, a very courageous person, and we all have that, I believe everybody has that inside of them, and that he went off and did something. No schooling, you know, of journalism, didn't go to journalism school, but had the passion to bring and go and discover a culture and bring that back. A book, go write a book. Don't listen to the rules. You don't have to. There are no rules. The reality is, you go out and do what he did tomorrow. Attempt to, at least. You might not come back alive, but you can attempt to. And with that, you can bring change. Today, we wouldn't be here without his sort of courageousness. So if you look at that and you watch that film, you bring that back, that to me would be a victory. If someone came back to me 10 years from now and said, hey, I went off and did this crazy thing and I did this, I'd be so happy. You know, that'd be great.
Brian, how can people see the film?
Well, you can either buy the film from us tonight and...
Any distributors?
Just saying, we'll take donations today. It's at Tribeca for the next couple of days. I know it's sold out, but rush, tickets could open up next couple nights, and then hopefully it'll be into theaters soon.
It's a wonderful film. You guys did an incredible job. Congratulations. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.